Okay. Basically, you need to go in and delete all of the preferences for every pilot you have because they're no longer valid. They're not going to work. There's not any way you can adjust them to make them correct. Just please delete them. Next, go in to the GhostSuite folder in My Documents and change the name of the new OCR mask to Old OCR Mask. When you download the new release, start it up, it'll automatically download the default config for the pilot you start and the new OCR mask. When you go to update, if you've done a lot of major changes, do not select all, okay? Because we updated the selected item section, and that's the one that you have to have to make sure it doesn't engage players. You can combine the rest of them, but don't combine all. Now, in order to get GhostSuite to work correctly, you've got to reset some settings. Just follow along with me. First thing you want to do, yes, is reset Windows to their default location. Why? We've changed the location a little bit on some of them. And if you want to be able to use the default settings without having to go through every little detail of it, just follow along with it. Make sure you got 0 targets backed. Back targeting 0. Context menu has to be at 10. If it's not at 10, it's not going to read the context menu. These 3 boxes need to be set. They need to be selected. Windows will stay in place. All that happy stuff. Make sure that your window is a fixed window, 1024 by 768 and 100%. You should turn off all of the effects. It'll cut down on your CPU usage. One of the other things that I also do is I set it to low quality character, and I turn off the simulate hair and all that stuff. And as you can see, I've got all of the stuff for graphics either disabled, none, or set to low. Again, this is to help your system run a little bit cleaner, a little bit faster, without having so much information being downloaded because you don't need it. Star map's going to be open. So just follow along, set your preferences the way that I have them, you'll be fine. Audio and chat, I set it to automatically reject chat windows. People I don't know, I don't want to talk to them. Again, menu context menu 10, those 3 boxes selected. Using the easy themes, 0 targets. Using the easy theme selection, dark opaque with the sliders all the way to the right for transparency. Close the window. You're basically set up. Now, pin the station services in the default location. Now, with the station services pinned, you're going to open up the monitor utility, and we've added a sequence to it, or a set to it, for ship location, so it can absolutely determine where the ship's at. Right now, it's got 2 boxes checked. Why? It's not supposed to have, because the station services is not minimized. So what are we going to do? Let me scroll back up here. Delete these 2 buttons. You don't need, if you're mining, you don't need the help, and you don't need the tutorial. Now you can see it says that the undock button is by itself, and the station services have been minimized. Yes, we did correct it for bookmarks, guys. Okay. You close that window. That's checked out. What are we going to do next? Okay, we're going to undock, and you're going to import the views for the overview, for the overview selection for GhostSuite to operate off of. So let's undock. Import the selections, GhostSuite, import. Now the overview is set up as far as the views that you need for GhostSuite. Okay, now open up the star map, moving the stars out of the way. I'm going to minimize the world map control panel. I'm going to dock it down here on the bottom. I don't need it. I'm not going to use it for anything. I'm going to move this over out of the way, the drone bay, and selected item. Get it out of the way. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up the mouse view. And we're going to set some settings up in it. Specifically, we're going to set the gate to be the first waypoint. Click on the last line so that line's open, and we're going to open up the mouse view, and we're going to put the same numbers in it that I do. 709, 194, width of 11, and height, or I'm sorry, width of 10, height of 10. Now, as you can see, I move it over. I'm pulling the icon column over so that it's going to be the right height. Now, I almost cut this section out, but I wanted you guys to see how hard it is for even me to get the overview lined up sometimes to the correct width. Usually I can get it lickety split, boom, I'm done and lined it up. But every once in a while I have the same problem you do. I didn't want to go in the right place. If you look at the gate icon on the left hand side, it's got the little pyramid on its side, and the bottom of the pyramid, which is the left hand side, those pixels are brighter than the rest of it. That's what I'm trying to get into the first column of the left mouse view, and for some reason this time when I was setting it up, it just didn't want to do it. Right there, I'm 1 pixel off. I got it perfect height, but it's that 1 pixel, that 1 column. It always wants to jump too, but you know, it's, you got to get it. You want to get it in the right location. And it's not always easy. This is probably the hardest thing to set in the game in order to, there it goes, in order to get it to line up. See how that first row right there is brighter than the rest? You get the same thing, the same little bright spot on the top, a little bit on the side, and then there at the bottom. See how that's lined up there? That's the image that you want to have in your mouse view when you're lining up the width of the overview. It's got to be there, guys. Now, next thing you're going to do is you're going to pin the overview and take the drone bay, move it up there, align it to the top, snap it to the right, and pin it. That way it's forming straight lines. take the selected item, and you're going to be doing basically the same thing with it. You're going to be docking it up on the top up there, and making sure that it's snapped to the lines, forming lines, left side, right side, top and bottom. Pin it in place. That gets you ready. That gets those in the right location. It's ready to go, pretty much. Next, we got to warp out to the belt. So, view 13, or I'm sorry, belt view. And I'm warping out to a belt, so I'm going to set it to view 13, all oars. That way it's got those in there, and you'll be able to see when you get out there. Now, here's a little thing while we're in warp I'm going to show you. There's two new items on the overview check utility. One is distance sort icon. Line it up so that it's not completely on the right hand side, but more on the right hand side than the left. If you have to adjust the column width, do so. Same thing with the name column. If you got to adjust the width of that column, do so, but do the distance first and then the name. Now that we're at the belt, I'm lining it up. See the distance between the bottom corner and F2 stripper? Pin it in place. Now, since we get that utility open, next gate, oh shit, it's not going to line up. So I'm just going to set it as a waypoint so that it's yellow. And there you can see it's still lined up the way it's supposed to be. Close that. It's just a double check. Okay. Now let's go to Tools, OCR Test, Range. Reads the range to everything. 21 items. OCR Test. Selected item. Reading the range to the selected item. OCR Test. Drone Control. See how those line up? Being read. Okay. And shits and giggles system name. Everything's where it's supposed to be at the moment. Okay. Now, open the ship's fitting. Clear that. We're going to open up the ship's fitting panel. And right now we're going to dock it down to the bottom right hand corner of the eave window. Close it, open it. If you didn't get it right dead on, if you were a little bit past, it'll snap it back out to that location. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up the mouse view. And we're going to enter these numbers. 168, 228, 146 by 14. Now, open up your, since I don't have the, since I don't have my ore hold full or the ability to fill it, I'm going to change the color to make it easier to see. Army green is kind of bright, so that's what I'm going to use. Close the window here. Now that shows up that, good contrast in the mouse view. And go back, open up the inventory. I'm just making it smaller, docking it right there. Now watch the right hand side when I go to move it. It's going to snap to the drone window, even though you can't see it, in the top of the ship's fitting window. Snapping to that line formed by the drone control window and the line formed by the top of the ship's fitting window. Close that now. See how it's lined up? You got the green there. If I decrease the green just a little bit, or if I decrease the X value just a little bit, that right there is what I'm wanting to make sure is just off the side. See how it just disappeared off the side, and that's pretty even on both sides? You can do that for any ship if you need to make it bigger. That's how you line it up. Okay. We're going to open up the OCR tool now. You don't need the mouse view. And we're going to look at the cargo. Okay. For some reason here, this is how you make the adjustment. This is where you make the adjustment. I'm going to decrease the X value. See how I got a little bit of the window on the left-hand side, that green. So I'm going to step it up so 1 pixel out. It's 1 pixel out. That gives me a perfect alignment, and I'm going to save it. Okay. See how it's got the even space on either side? Just for shits and giggles, we're going to check. There's 1, 2, 3. 3 blank boxes on the bottom. 1, 2, 3 blank boxes on the top. I know it's perfectly spaced. The area that the program is looking is perfectly aligned. It's done. Pin it in place. Okay. What are we going to do next? It's pinned. We're going to do people and places. People and places. Make it as narrow as possible. It wants to pop out a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and dock it. And I'm going to grab it again and push it all the way over, but it wants to line to the chat window. So, move it and close it. That way you know it's not lined up on anything, except the right-hand side and at the top. Do a search. Anything you want to do a search for, make it as narrow as possible. Dock it top left-hand corner. The one thing I forgot to do was to make sure that the search results was open in the search window. Make sure that that's popped out so it actually shows the system. See how warp to location doesn't extend past the bottom of the window? There it extends down past the bottom. So move it down just a little bit and check it again. Remove location. There you go. That sets that up high enough that it's not going to mess with the monitoring of system messages. Do not pin the search window results in place. It's got to be there. Again, I forgot to show you to open up the search results. That's basically how you get the windows in place in space. Now let's get docked. And while we're on our way, we need to stretch the chat window so that it docks and lines up right there with the side of the current inventory window that's open, because this one is going to close once we get docked. Okay, what are we going to do? Inventory window's really big. I'm going to make it small, and I'm going to dock it right there so it snaps to the Neocom and the top of the chat window, and then I'm going to stretch it over so that it's as wide as the chat window. And then I'm going to open up P&P, or the ship's fitting window, and I'm moving it up so that it snaps to that. Now let's look at, let's open up the utility, OCR, look at the OCR tool, look at cargo. This window's not wide enough, so I'm going to grab that and I'm going to push it left. Now, see how that green bar just disappears? That gets it lined up so that it's perfect, both in space and in the hangar. Okay. Once you get it lined up, you're going to pin it in place. Check the width and all that. Let's open up the mouse view and check it again. Refresh it. Again, 3 square boxes beneath. 1, 2, 3, and there's 1, 2, 3 on top. So I know it's at the perfect height. And because there's no green on the left or right, I know it's perfectly wide and aligned. Now we can refine these locations. We can look at it in the mouse view. It's got a little bit of a bigger window for you to utilize. So let's put these numbers in here. And we're going to adjust it just to make sure. See how on the mouse view it's a little bit bigger? You decrease it, you can see the green. So we're going to increase it. Where does it disappear? Right there, 168. So we're going to increase that to 168. See how it's evenly spaced on either side. That's what you're looking for. Go ahead and save it. Oh, I'm overwriting my default. As you can see, it's got the 3 boxes above and below. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's important. Now, pin it in place. It's perfectly located. Make the chat window a little bit smaller. Doesn't need to be all that wide. And change it back. Do the correct color. Make sure you move the sliders over. Close the window. Guess what? Your E window is now set up for autopilot, miner, radar, salvager, and the hauler. It's ready to go. So that's all you need, is right there. It's done. Get back to mining, guys. Sorry it took so long to get everything ready and up to date. We're working on it just as quick as we can to get everything out the way that it should be. I hate putting out partially fixed releases.